Hi, everyone. This is Global Podcast, your window to the world. Breaking news, big ideas, your global hangout for what's happening now, and bold conversations. Wherever you are, we're bringing it to you. Let's get started.
All right, so you know how it is, right? Like when the economy starts getting a little rocky,
Oh, yeah.
everyone kind of freaks out a little bit. Like everyone is just looking for any indication of like what's going to happen next.
Yeah, for sure. Like, where is this all headed? What's the next shoe to drop?
Exactly. And like that kind of brings us to this crazy but thankfully short-lived thing that happened. Remember that whole rumor about Trump putting his tariffs on hold for 90 days?
Oh, yeah, that was why.
And then almost immediately the White House comes out and is like, nope, not happening. It all happened so fast.
It really did.
It was like a real-time example of just how fast information, or really, let's be honest, like misinformation can just spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And it can like really mess with the markets, you know, cause like some huge waves.
Oh, absolutely. It was a real wake-up call, don't you think? Like, it just shows how on edge everyone is about the economy.
Totally. So for today's deep dive, we've been going through a bunch of news reports that have been tracking this whole tariff thing, you know, like from that initial speculation to the White House's response and then all the expert analysis,
Right.
trying to figure out like why the heck did this all happen? And so basically what we want to do today is pretty simple. We want to understand like what even started this whole tariff pause rumor in the first place, and then why the markets went so crazy over it. And then, of course, you know, like what's actually going on with trade right now? Like what's the real deal? Not just all the rumors and speculation.
Yeah, cut through all that noise.
Exactly.
Get to the signal.
So let's start with like, where did this all come from? Like, what was the source of this whole mess?
Well, it seems like it can all be traced back to comments made by Kevin Hassett.
Right, Kevin Hassett. He was, I think he was still the director of the National Economic Council at the time.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So he's on Fox News, and he gets asked point blank, like, hey, is Trump thinking about like a temporary pause on these tariffs? And he doesn't really say yes or no. He just says this one phrase that everyone latched onto. And it was, I think the president is going to decide what the president is going to decide.
Right. Classic non-answer.
I know, right? I mean, like, what does that even mean?
Exactly. And I think that vagueness is kind of what made it blow up the way it did.
Right.
Because if things were calmer, people probably would have just been like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone is so anxious about trade policy right now and how it could impact the economy.
Right.
That it was like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Totally. And then, of course, you had social media, like especially Platform X.
Oh, yeah.
Just taking this whole thing and amplifying it like crazy, turning a vague comment into a full-blown rumor.
Absolutely.
It's nuts how fast it spread, right?
It's hard to even believe.
Like 1 minute, it's just some random remark on a news channel, and the next minute, everyone's acting like it's confirmed that the tariffs are paused.
Totally. And I think it really goes to show how social media can be like a double-edged sword, right? Like information can spread at the speed of light. But that also means that misinformation spreads just as fast.
100%.
And the market's reaction was pretty incredible.
Oh my gosh, it was instant.
Like as soon as these rumors started going around, you could see the U.S. stock market just shoot up.
It was crazy. The S&P 500, you know, that big index that tracks like a bunch of huge U.S. companies, it jumped over 6% in just half an hour.
That's insane.
6%. And it was all based on nothing, like just a rumor.
It really is wild.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ too, those also saw big gains.
Right.
At least for a little while. But I think what's really interesting, even more than how fast it went up, was how fast it went back down. Like as soon as the White House denied it, the market just corrected itself.
Yeah, it shows you how sensitive the markets are to anything related to trade, you know?
Right.
Like every little word and every little hint just gets analyzed and reacted to instantly.
And the White House, like they didn't mess around. They came out and just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, they were very clear about it.
But they were not playing.
No.
So the White House press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, she puts out the statement. And it was super direct, like zero ambiguity. No ifs, ands, or buts. Just no. We are not even thinking about pausing the tariffs.
Exactly. And she specifically emphasized that Trump is totally committed to his trade strategy.
Right, like full steam ahead.
No change in course.
Yeah. And then Trump himself came out and basically said the same thing. Like he doubled down on his whole argument about tariffs being necessary, you know, his thing about how they're going to fix the trade deficit.
Right. That's the difference between how much a country imports and how much it exports.
Yeah. And then his whole thing about how it's going to bring in billions of dollars for the U.S. economy. So, yeah, no backing down from him.
No, he's pretty consistent on that.
And then to be fair to Hassett, he also came out later and was like, hey guys, you all took what I said the wrong way. Like he said that there hadn't even been any discussions at all about suspending the tariffs.
Right, so it really does seem like it was just a case of people reading into what he said a bit too much.
Totally. But it does make you think, though, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Even the suggestion of a change in the tariffs, even if it was totally made up, it was enough to, like, spook the market that much. And that tells us that people are pretty worried about where things are going with global trade.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that we can't just look at this whole tariff rumor thing in isolation.
Right.
Like, we have to see it as part of a much bigger picture, like all these trade tensions that have been escalating, especially between the U.S. and China.
Totally. And even while that whole tariff pause rumor was making the rounds, like, in the real world, China's tariffs were still a thing.
Oh, yeah, very much.
I mean, they slapped a 34% tariff on everything we send over there back on April 10th.
That's huge.
It's a lot. I mean, think about it, like 34% extra on the price of anything. It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big hit.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop at just tariffs.
Right.
They've also started restricting exports of rare earth elements.
Oh, right. Like those special metals that are super important for all kinds of technology.
Exactly. We use those for everything from smartphones and electric cars to even military equipment.
Wow.
So when they start limiting that supply, it can cause problems for a lot of different industries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then on top of all of that, China went and added 11 U.S. companies to this list they call unreliable entities.
What does that even mean? Like unreliable?
It's basically like a warning. Like, these companies might have a harder time doing business in China. They might face restrictions on trade and investment. And, who knows what else they might throw at them.
Yikes. And so, like, what did Trump do in response to all of that? I mean, we know he doesn't back down easily.
No, he doesn't. He actually threatened to put an even bigger tariff, like 50%, on all Chinese imports, like just to really crank things up even more.
Wow, so it just keeps going back and forth, huh?
It does, yeah. It feels like this constant cycle of escalation.
It's like a trade war.
Yeah, basically.
And it's not just between the U.S. and China, right? Like other countries are getting dragged into this too.
Oh, yeah. Like Canada and the EU, for example. They've both been hit by Trump's tariffs.
Right.
And so they've started talking about countermeasures, too.
Oh, wow.
So it's just adding more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
And all of this just makes global markets super unstable and unpredictable. Like, everyone is just on edge and waiting to see what's going to happen next.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question, right? Like, what does all of this mean for the economy as a whole? It's not just about the stock market going up and down, right? Like, there are real people and real businesses that are affected by all of this.
Totally. And a lot of experts are starting to get really worried about it. Like, you've got some major financial institutions putting out some pretty serious warnings.
Like who?
Well, for instance, Goldman Sachs. They recently increased their prediction for the chance of a U.S. recession in the next year to 45%.
Whoa, that's pretty high.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're specifically saying that they think this increased risk is connected to all the disruption from these tariffs.
Right.
Like, they're worried about businesses having to pay more for imported stuff and then having to either eat that cost or pass it on to consumers. And then, of course, consumers might start spending less if prices go up, and that hurts the whole economy.
Right, it's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
And so is Goldman Sachs the only one that's worried about this?
No. JP Morgan's also put out a prediction, and they think there's a 60% chance of a global recession by the end of the year.
Wow. Okay, so even higher than Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they actually bumped up their prediction after Trump first announced he was going to raise tariffs. So they're clearly connecting that to the increased risk of a recession. They're worried about a lot of the same things as Goldman Sachs, but they're thinking about it on a global level,
Right.
Because trade affects everyone.
Okay. So all these experts are basically saying that these trade wars could lead to a recession.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what are they saying, like specifically, what are they worried about?
Well, they're pointing to a few key things. One is higher manufacturing costs, like when businesses have to pay more for their supplies because of tariffs, it increases their costs.
Right.
And then they either have to make less profit or raise their prices. And neither of those are good for the economy.
Right.
And then another big worry is that businesses will start to lose confidence and stop investing as much. Like, if they're not sure what's going to happen with trade, they might be less likely to expand their business or hire more people or put money into research and development.
That makes sense.
And then the third big concern is that these trade wars could disrupt global supply chains. Like businesses might have to scramble to find new suppliers or change how they do things.
Yeah, and all of that costs money and time.
Exactly. And it just adds to the uncertainty and makes it harder for businesses to plan for the future.
Wow. So it's not looking good.
No, it's not. There was a statement from Deutsche Bank that really stuck with me. They said that these trade policies could have profound global consequences for 2025 and beyond. Like, they're basically saying that the effects of these trade wars could be felt for years to come.
That's a really scary thought. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. It's been a long, deep dive.
It has.
But let's recap for everyone listening, like, what are the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, first of all, remember that the White House was super quick to deny that whole tariff pause rumor. Like, they made it very clear that they are sticking to their current trade strategy. And secondly, and I think this is really important, is that even the rumor of a change in trade policy was enough to send the markets into a frenzy.
Yeah, it was like everyone just panicked.
It just shows how much anxiety there is about trade right now and how sensitive the markets are to anything that could change the game.
Totally. And then third, we have to keep in mind that this whole thing with China is not going away. Like, it's only getting worse, and it's causing a lot of instability and unpredictability in the global economy.
Exactly. And I think the last big takeaway is that we need to pay attention to what the experts are saying.
Right.
Like, they're warning us
Yeah.
that these trade wars could really hurt the economy. And they're not just talking about Wall Street. They're talking about real people and real businesses all over the world.
So yeah, it's definitely something we need to be keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. Like this whole thing with the tariff rumor, the market's reaction, the White House denial, and all those warnings about the economy, it's all connected. It's all part of the same story.
So to wrap things up here, we saw this tiny little blip where the market thought maybe, just maybe, things were going to change with trade, and then it all went back to the way it was.
Yeah, it was like a roller coaster.
It really was. And I think it just shows how much uncertainty there is right now. Like, everything is so fragile, and the smallest thing can cause huge ripples.
Yeah, it's a pretty tense time.
So I guess my question for everyone listening is, like, what are you watching for? Like, what signs are you seeing that tell you where things are headed? Pay attention to what the government is doing, pay attention to how the markets are reacting, and pay attention to what the experts are saying.
Good advice.
Because all of those things together can give you a better sense of what might be coming down the road. It's a wild ride out there, and it's definitely worth staying informed.
I agree, and I don't think the ride is over yet.
No, I don't think so either.